Hello, everybody. My name is Rian Venter. I am responsible for post-sale support, or Director of Post-sale Support at Adaptive Computing. So for today, I would like to create a video that will show you the steps how to deploy a E4S cluster on AWS in this case. With a E4S application, meaning you can actually run the application from the adaptive solutions, ODDC and MOAB. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and then we can go through the steps here. So I'll do the share here, and then we can actually just go through the steps. It should take about 15 to 20 minutes for us to go through this. Right, so now I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, what we see over here is my on-demand data center login screen to the user interface of on-demand data center, just so that you understand, where it all comes from. This environment is actually installed in our data center in the US and Florida, and I'm accessing it from where I am, which, by the way, is in South Africa. So that just shows you can manage all of this and use it from anywhere in the world. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and log in as a administrator in this case. And this is where I will actually create a login for you as well. So when I actually onboard you, you will be created a login, same as this, and you will have access to the full environment where I will actually deploy a cluster for you, and you can actually make use of it. Right, so let's have a look at our existing clusters. Right, so you'll notice that I've got 4 different clusters. The one that I will be focusing on over here is the Amazon one. So if I drill down into this Amazon cluster over here, just to see the configuration, you'll notice that currently it's got a head node and 2 compute nodes. And even though AI, it's actually, people don't always believe that or don't know that just using standard VMs, in this case, a T2X large from Amazon, and I'm actually running this cluster in Canada, and each one has got 4 cores. So in fact, most of your AI applications, in this case, the E4S applications, run very well on these types of shapes. And you will notice that these 2 nodes are actually down. So the cluster gets deployed, head node is always up 24/7, and then we switch on bursting. So bursting means after a certain period of time, we've got a default setting for testing purposes where I use the training part. I've set it for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And in your case, we will potentially make it for an hour. So the idea around that is if you run workload and it comes into the job queue of the on-demand data center side over here, it will actually start up the nodes based on what's required, and you can use it. And then even after your workload is completed, your compute nodes will stay up for at least an hour. We can configure that if you prefer to keep it up for the whole day, for longer. But the big thing is about cost saving. So if there is no workload, then automatically after that, as we call it, an idle purge, these nodes will actually be taken down. All right, so these are this cluster is available, waiting for workload, and we have set it up. And this is the way that I'll set up someone that I onboard in the environment. Now, on the MOAB side, I'm going to log into the user interface called MOAB Viewpoint, and also logging on as an administrator in this case. And the same thing, I will actually create a login for you that has got a login into the MOAB Viewpoint side, where you only see your workload. So that's another point to make within the on-demand data center side as well as Viewpoint. You only see your own cluster, you see only your own workload, nobody else can see it, nobody can access it. All right, so what we see over here is actually the workload, and this is important in the sense of running the workload from MOAB, being a scheduler. And this environment, MOAB installation, is also in our data center in Florida. and we will actually make use of a specific template. So within Viewpoint, there's something called templates. So you'll click on templates, and you'll see that there are a list of templates. Now, I can see all of them being an administrator. When I onboard you, you'll only see the ones that I will mention over here. Now, let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see this. Now, these 4 over here, you'll see they are called deploy E4S on AWS cluster, same with the other cloud providers. This template, job template, application template, is actually not going to run one of the E4S applications. It will just start up E4S on a AWS cluster, keep it up for you. As I mentioned, by default, we make it for an hour. And then that is where you can just directly SSH log in via VNC into the cluster head node as well as the compute nodes, because they will be up. Then you can go and run and work on all the different applications. Further down, I've got another 4 sets. So here's the first one, which I will be using today. Is called submit E4S on AWS, but with an actual application, meaning an E4S application. You'll see on the next page the rest for the other cloud providers. Right. So a simple process of, you say, I want to run workload, and I want to run a E4S application on my Amazon cluster, right? So you say I want to submit a job, and now you can select your template that will be available. And as I mentioned, you will only see the ones that are related to the E4S side. So in this case, you'll notice that's the one we're using is submit E4S on AWS with an application. I'll select that. Now it is preset. There's a forms that we fill in as part of the configuration. So what we've made available is we'll show you that over here we've got 2 nodes, 4 cores each, and you will notice that on the on-demand data center side, 2 nodes, 4 cores each. So that means when you start workload, we will start up those nodes and you can actually make use of them. Further down is a drop-down list of the different applications that you can choose. Right now, I've already built in 10 of the applications: PyTorch, OpenFOAM, Tau, TensorFlow, JAX, Cocos Optimize, Julia, Trillenius, Lamps, Quantum Espresso. You may be familiar with some of these, and I will be adding more. So right now, on the E4S clusters, we have 123 packages available. And it will grow over time. So that's what's available right now. So I'm going to use PyTorch, and I'm going to go ahead and create this. Now, this will create a process of a instruction from my Moab Viewpoint side, and it will send it to my on-demand data center side, where it will actually start up the nodes, and then you can actually start working on those nodes, even using, in this case, the PyTorch output that it generates. And you can use PyTorch, the PyTorch application, to view your actual output data. All right, so if we look under the workload over here, you'll notice there's 2 jobs now in the queue here. First one is already active, and that's called power, meaning it's powering up. So my Moab environment has passed on the instruction to my on-demand data center side, and we will notice that now my 2 nodes are actually being told, listen, we need to start up these 2 nodes because there is actually a job, in this case, a PyTorch job that is actually needs to run on my AWS cluster. Right. So now we have the process started, selected my template, and I've chosen my application. So these will typically take 5 minutes plus minus. That's very standard between all the cloud providers. And we can wait for this to deploy, and then my job will actually be sent also to my nodes, and it will run. In the meantime, I can go ahead and have a look on the head node itself. So we've added something in your Open VNC viewer. So you can click on that, and this will actually give me the opportunity via VNC viewer to actually log in via a Ubuntu graphical desktop environment where you can physically work on the head node already. And as soon as your compute nodes are deployed, you can access them as well from here. So I can just hit connect, and it will ask me to type in the same credentials that I will be setting up for each one. And the password. And and I'm going to send my credentials. Right, so now it will start up my environment. So this is I've done some updates on this cluster. So I'll just go through these quickly. So that's typical when you install a new environment. And then next time when you log in here, these questions won't be asked you. And that's typical, as you may be familiar with, that when you install a new Ubuntu operating system, it does prompt you for some questions over here. So I'll just go through these quickly, and I'm going to say no, don't want to upgrade. All right, so now we're ready, and I'm going to say done. All right, so now you'll notice, all right, so it's okay for that. Now I'm on the head node, right? The header is always up 24/7, and I can already work around over here. So I can do, for example, open in a terminal. So I want to work in a terminal using the command line interface part of it. Let's make this a bit bigger. All right, so within this environment, and you can see now I am on the E4S AWS Canada clusters head node. We can run a command and E4S, with E4S, we use something called SPAC. That's a package manager. So I can run SPAC find -x. So that will just show me all the packages available. And we'll see a list over here. So you'll see there's 164. And remember, I mentioned 123. Now, this list includes all applications that can work with GPUs as well as normal standard cores or VMs, or CPUs at least. We can see which ones are just for GPUs. I can say plus CUDA. So that will just pull out the ones that are GPU compatible, if you want to call it. So 43 of this 164 are actually GPU compatible. So if you do subtract these, you'll get, I think, well, it's actually 122. It's actually 123. That will be available. Right. Now you can see these packages are available. It's a very simple thing of saying, for example, spec, I want to look for a specific application. I'm going to say open phone, for example. There's many in here. I can say, what do you have related to open phone? And now it tells me I've got open phone 2306. So I can go ahead and say spec load open phone. It will actually load it in your path. So that's available to you, and you can actually start making use of OpenFOAM. Same thing with most of these packages. Some of them don't need the load. You can just go ahead and run it. All right, so that is actually where you can see that all these different packages is available. Now, let's have a look to see if our compute nodes have already deployed. So they are already available, and you'll see that my job actually ran in the meantime. So see today's date, current time. So that would have generated some output. But the important part of this is, because I'm keeping them up for a while, I can go ahead and have a look at my compute node itself. So I can see by this command, can see it hosts what are my compute nodes addresses. So this shows my compute node. So I can do a SSH, and you'll see at the bottom here, either you can use the IP address or the actual name. So I'll use 10.1.2.12. So that's node 1. And I can SSH into that. And you'll see that it starts up my access to my compute node, right? So now you can see I'm actually logged into my compute node. And depending on how long it stays up, based on that idle purge I mentioned, you can work on this. All right, so let me just exit out of that one. Now, I just want to briefly show you, and this will be another video where from our partner Paratools, Samir, some of you may be familiar with him, he's very well known in the market. You will be doing a full training video on multiple different applications, but I just want to show one of them briefly. So within the environment, we've added some examples in there. So let's see, examples, I believe that would be correct. And all right, so let's change directly to opt. And I'll have a look where my examples are. And all right, so now you'll see there's something called, there's a few of them in here. I can change directly to demo. That's where some of the other examples are in as well. And let's have a look in here. There will be a little bit more. All right, here's our examples. And I'm using this because there's some sample data that you can actually make use of. And these will be available within these clusters. And anyway, because it's made available in the actual image. All right, so I'm just going to go into something called Tau is one of them, just as an example. And now I'm actually going to just list this, and I will see within there is a example file that I can make use of. So there's something called paraprof, and I can use this demo file. And oops, that's the wrong command that. So I need to run paraprof. You'll notice that I mistyped it. Paraprof. That's better. Right. So this will take a few seconds, and then we're going to start up using that sample data paraprof as one of the applications running in the background, and then you'll see that we can start rendering this output data within the graphical views and so forth. So this is where Samir will actually be doing much more of this. So I'm just going to quickly do a quick overview for you guys using that sample data, and it kind of assists you in understanding, in this case, more about what your actual application is doing. This is what paraprof or Tau at least assists you with. So this is this kind of view, and I can say I want to have a 3D visualization of this, and on that specific node, and now it comes up with a graphical view. And obviously, if somebody would know this environment, you can actually move this around as you prefer. You can do a bar plot, and that will change, based on certain choices you make over here. There's a scatter plot. Using the same input data, and you'll see there, this is typically where all the the whole, I want to call it the environment program runs, and there's one little spot over here that kind of spends more time over here. That's why it's red. And then obviously there's like a topology plot as well. Right, so this is just briefly a view, but I do recommend referring to Samir's video, which he will be going in much more detail and covering much more of the different E4S applications. Right, so I'm going to go back to my environment, and you'll notice that currently still my compute node is still up. So I've set it for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, based on the setting that I've set, we will notice that there will be a power job, and now we can see that my power job has just started coming in, and then shortly we will see that it will send this job to my on-demand data center side. And this is part of what I spoke about, where from a cost saving point of view, and obviously you have to work on your specific application for a certain amount of time. So absolutely, the requirement is you want to have it more than an hour, or you work on it and maybe you forget. People typically work on something and then they get busy with something else. In the meantime, on-demand data center will actually go ahead and take this down. And now, while we were watching, can you see that after 5 minutes, my MOA viewpoint side sent the power off instruction of those nodes based on the idle purge, which I've set to 5 minutes, and now we're actually busy destroying the two nodes. Head nodes remains up, so now it will wait for the next set of workload to come in, and this is where I would like to end it off. If there's any questions, obviously I will be making my contact details available. And these clusters I'm currently using will be configured the same way, that as soon as I onboard you, and you'll have access to the cloud resources. And we are also working now on making some GPUs available on premise as well, if that is a requirement. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening.